Hi, welcome to the Healing Work where we focus on self-discovery and spiritual growth. I'm Chastity. Welcome back to my channel. I know it's been quite a while since I've logged on, but I'm back and I'm so excited for us to pick up where we left off in The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. We've read chapters 1 and 3. I hope you all have been enjoying implementing some of the things that we learned. And hopefully in chapter 4, we can get some additional insight on how we can further utilize our subconscious mind. And allow me to find chapter 4. I've got it. And let's get started. So it's entitled Mental Healings in Ancient Times. Think good and good follows. Think evil and evil follows. You are what you think all day long. Through the ages, people in every continent, climate, and culture have instinctively known that somewhere there resided a healing power that could restore the abilities and functions of a person's body to its normal state of efficiency and good health. They believed that this strange power could be invoked under certain conditions and that if it were invoked properly, the alleviation of human suffering would follow. The history of all nations presents testimony in support of this belief. This is no different than if you've been to church and come from a Baptist background. At least I can only attest to that fact because that's how I grew up. But when someone's sick in the church, what do? They call you to the front. They have prayer call, and if your faith is rooted in that, you're determined or believed to be healed. So this is something similar. It's just very interesting to see that this is what they used to do back in the day. In early history of the world, the power of secretly influencing people for good or evil, including the healing of the sick, was said to be possessed by priests, priestesses, and holy people. They claimed to possess powers derived directly from God that included the healing of the sick. The procedures and process of healing varied throughout the world, but they generally included supplications and offerings to the god. Various ceremonies such as the laying of hands and incantations and the use of amulets, talismans, rings, relics, and images. For example, in the religions of antiquity, priests in ancient temples gave drugs to their patients and practiced hypnotic suggestions as they went to sleep. The patients were told that the gods would surely visit them in their sleep and heal them. Many healings followed. The devotees of Hecate were told to mix lizards with resin, frankincense, and myrrh and pound all this together in the open air under the crescent moon. After performing these bizarre and mysterious rites, they prayed to the goddesses, took the potion that they had just compounded, and went to sleep. If their faith was strong enough, they saw the goddess as goddess in a dream. This rite, which sounds so strange, even fantastic to our ears, was often followed by healings. People in ancient times worked out many effective ways to tap the incredible power of the subconscious mind and use it for healing. While they knew that these procedures worked, however, they did not understand how or why they worked. Today we can see they were using potent suggestions to the subconscious mind. The rituals and potions and amulets appealed powerfully to the imagination of people and favored the acceptance by the subconscious mind of the insistent suggestions given by the healer. But the work of healing was done by the patient's own subconscious mind. In all ages, unofficial healers have obtained remarkable results in cases where authorized medical skill had failed and the patients had given up hope. This gives cause for thought. How do these healers in all parts of the world affect their cures? The answer is that these healings take place because the belief of the sick person released the healing power resident in his or her subconscious mind. The more fantastic and peculiar the remedies and methods used by the healers, the more likely the patients were to believe that anything so strange must be unusually powerful. Their aroused emotional state made it easier for them to accept the suggestion of health in both their conscious and subconscious mind. Biblical accounts on the use of the subconscious powers. What things soever ye desire, when ye pray, believe ye receive them, and ye shall have them. Mark 11:24. We read this passage from the Apostle Mark and pay close attention to the difference in tenses. The verbs believe and receive are in the present, but the phrase shall have is in the future. The inspired writer is telling us something of the greatest importance by this seemingly minor difference in the grammar of the sentence. If we believe and accept as true the fact that our desire has already been accomplished and fulfilled, that is already completed, then its realization will follow as a thing in the future. The success of this technique relies on the confident conviction that the thought, the idea, the picture is already in fact mine. In order for anything to have substance in the realm of mind, it must be thought of as actually existing. This is a very helpful tip. In making something, in making a thought, or in order to make a thought actually exist, I would also encourage implementing the emotions of that thought. If you're manifesting a car, how would you feel once you actually manifest that car? You would be happy, you would be excited. You may, if it's a drop top car, you may feel the wind blowing through your hair. So emit those emotions that you would associate with that thing coming to pass, and that's going to help you to be more in a space to actually bring that to fruition. So if it's healing, you would be happy when the doctor came in and said you've been healed. You may cry tears of joy. Emote those feelings whenever you're manifesting whatever you need to manifest, because that helps it to be so, or come into pass. Here in a few words is a concise and specific direction for making use of the creative power of thought by impressing upon the subconscious the particular thing you desire. Your thought, your idea, plan, or purpose is as real on its own plane as your hand on your heart. When you want something to come to pass, don't put it so far off into the future or so outside of your mind that you can't perceive it. Right here, he's telling us it should be as real as our hand, our heart. Our hand and our heart are right here. Whatever thought or desire you're needing, it needs to be real as if it's currently happening. In the following biblical technique, you completely eliminate from your mind all consideration of conditions, circumstances, or anything that might imply a negative outcome. You're planting a seed concept in the mind that if you leave it undisturbed, will infallibly germinate into external fruition. The prime condition that Jesus insisted upon was faith. Over and over again, you read in the Bible, according to your faith, it is done unto you. If you plant certain types of seeds in the ground, you have faith they will grow after their kind. This is the way of seeds and trusting the laws of growth in agriculture. You know the seeds will come forth after their kind. So if you are planting seeds of sadness, sickness, unhappiness, or sadness and unhappiness is the same, but you get it. If your seeds, your thoughts that are being planted in your subconscious mind are completely opposite of what you desire to happen, guess what's going to happen? You're going to have those undesired results. And it's saying here, this is the law of mind. Mine is one. Oh, well, all is mine. The faith that is described in the Bible is a way of thinking, an attitude of mind, an inner certitude, knowing that the idea you fully accept in your conscious mind will be embodied in your subconscious mind and make manifest. This is the issue. So many of us go to church and read our Bibles, but we complicate the scripture. In this previous chapter right here, what did it say? What things soever ye desire when ye pray, believe ye receive them, and ye shall have them. Whatever you want or you desire is already done. Once you begin to think it, believe it, and see it, it is so. Only the negative thought of it not happening does it not happen. The faith that is described in the Bible is a way of thinking, an attitude of mind, an inner certitude, knowing that the idea you fully accept in your conscious mind will be embodied in your subconscious mind and made manifest. That's the only way it's going to manifest. Faith is, in a sense, accepting as true what your reason and senses deny. Sometimes, whatever you want to manifest, it's a future occurrence. Or it can be perceived as living in the now, depending on what it is. Like, for example, I wanted tea. I went and made tea. I manifested the tea because the tea happened. The only delay in me receiving the tea was the preparation of the tea. So, but I knew I was going to get the tea. You got to know that you're deserving of what you desire. Faith is, in a sense, accepting as true what your reason and senses deny. If you can't reason the fact that, if I couldn't reason the fact that I deserve tea and I have tea and I want tea, I could never experience the thought of having and drinking and sipping tea. Sometimes your faith have to be so rooted in that occurrence happening to the reasonable mind and your senses, it may not be so. But just because you're rooted in it, you're rooted in the thought of it happening, it happens. It is dosing down, refusing to listen to the little rational, analytical, conscious mind and embracing an attitude of complete reliance on the inner power of your subconscious mind. Here is one of the best known examples of the biblical technique of healing. And we had gone indoors. They too, blind men, came to him. Jesus asked, "Do you believe that I have the power to do what you want?" "Yes, sir," they said. Then he touched their eyes and said, "As you have believed, so let it be." And their sight was restored. Jesus said to them sternly, "See that no one hears about this." By saying, "According to your faith it is done unto you," Jesus was openly appealing to the cooperation of the subconscious mind of the blind man. What does that mean? The men cooperated with the thought of Jesus healing them, so they were healed. If the men did not believe they could be healed through Jesus, the healing would not occur. It's just that simple. Only we complicate this. Their faith was the great expectancy, their inner feeling, their inner conviction that the miraculous would happen, that their prayer would be answered. You hear this? You have to feel that it's going to happen. They felt that they were going to be healed of the blindness, so they were healed. They had an inner conviction that it would happen. This is a time-honored technique of healing, utilized alike by all healing groups throughout the world, regardless of religious affiliation. In saying, "See that no one hears about this," Jesus was urging the healed patients not to discuss their healing with others. So many of us have dreams and aspirations that we have shared prematurely, and in doing so, we didn't receive the support that we needed from that party, so we forgot it. We abandoned that dream. That dream became not so because we allowed those thoughts to cloud our judgment. You got to be careful who you share your dreams with. If they did so, they might be harassed by the skeptical and derogatory criticism of the unbelieving. I'm going to say this again. Be careful who you share your dreams with. And also, make sure your circle of influence can see what you can see or see greater than what you can see for yourself. So many times we are not who and what we need to be in this life because our circle is so small. Or not that the circle is small. Their thinking is small and they can't provide us with, they cannot provide us with the tools and resources we need to accomplish what we need to accomplish in this life. And the same may be vice versa for them. You may not be feeding them what they need to be who they need to be. Then in turn, this in turn might have tended to undo the benefits they had received at the hand of Jesus by depositing thoughts of fear, doubt, and anxiety in the subconscious mind. If you're on a frequency of happiness, love, peace, joy, and you're hanging around a circle of influence that creates thoughts of, or have thoughts of fear, doubt, and anxiety, what do you think is going to happen? You in turn may begin to have those limiting thoughts of fear, doubt, and anxiety. Or maybe you'll continuously operate on the higher level, but you're going to eventually become exhausted because you're emanating all this high frequency that's being kind of washed out with the heavier thoughts of fear, doubt, and anxiety. When the sick came to Jesus to be healed, they were healed by their own faith together with his faith and understanding of the healing power of the subconscious mind. Sometimes God is wanting to do what we need him to do in our life, and it's our own faith that is prohibiting that from being so. Whatever he decreed, he felt inwardly to be true. You gotta feel it inside. I want that new house. That new house is mine. I got it. I'm going shopping for the new curtains. I'm getting a new bedspread. You gotta have that inward feeling that it is true. He and the people needing help were in one universal subjective mind. One mind. All the great things we want are associated with God as long as they're for our greater and higher purpose. It's only when we move out of the circle of influence of that happening that it does not happen. And in his silent inner knowing and conviction of the patient's subconscious, the resultant healings were their automatic response to the internal mental change. You have to think it in your mind. His command was his appeal to the subconscious mind of the patients, plus his awareness, feeling an absolute trust in the response of the subconscious mind to the words that he spoke with authority. That's conviction. If something is so you believe it in your thoughts, you physically feel it happening. And we can use our senses. You can, if it's something that you need to eat, you can eat it, you can smell it, you can touch it. You got to make it real in that sense. Miracles at various shrines throughout the world. On every continent and every land, there are shrines at which cures take place. Some are world famous, like Lourdes, and others are known only to those who live nearby. Whether celebrated or obscure, the healings that take place at these shrines happen for the same reasons and by way of the same powers of the subconscious mind. Even with this, sometimes some people think that their healing or their deliverance won't come unless they're attached to a person, place, or thing. But that person, place, or thing only amplifies it if it's frequently aligned for that to come to for that to happen. The true healing is God. Now, these sacred sites are only amplified, or the sacred sites of healing are only amplified if we're aligning with that frequency for it to happen. These sacred sites are, let me make sure I'm saying it right. These sacred sites are only amplified by the power of healing, because basically the people that go, let me sit with that for a little while. I'll come back maybe. I have visited several of the famous shrines in Japan. The central focus of the world-renowned shrine of Dabutsu is a gigantic bronze statue, 42 feet tall. It depicts Buddha seated with folded hand, his head inclined in awe, and an attitude of profound contemplative ecstasy. Here I saw young and old making offerings at his feet. Money, fruit, rice, and oranges were offered. Candles were lit, incense were burned, and prayers of petition were recited. I listened to the chant of a young girl as she intoned a prayer, bowed low, and placed 2 oranges as an offering. She was thanking Buddha for restoring her voice. She had lost her voice, but it was restored at the shrine. Her simple faith that Buddha would give her back her singing voice if she followed a certain ritual, fasted, and made certain offerings had helped to kindle faith and expectancy. The result was a conditioning of her mind to the point of belief. Her subconscious mind then responded to her belief. I think this is what I was trying to say just a little while ago. It's not the physical sights that are healing. It's the energy associated with the person believing that the healing exists that amplifies the healing. And I was saying that all to say because sometimes we get caught up that our healing can't come through certain people, places, or things, but that's not so. They only amplify it. The power of imagination and blind belief cannot be overstated. A wondrous example of this is the case of a relative of mine in Perth, in Western Australia, who suffered from tuberculosis. His lungs were badly diseased. His son decided to help his father heal himself. He went to his father's home and told him he had recently met a wandering monk with strange powers. This monk had just returned from a long stay at one of the most celebrated healing shrines in Europe. There he had acquired a small fragment of the true cross set in a ring dating back from the Middle Ages. Over the centuries, countless sufferers had been healed after touching the ring or fragment of the cross. When the son had heard this, he had told the monk about his father's illness and begged to borrow the ring. The monk had agreed. The son gave the monk a free will offering of the equivalent of $500. When the son showed his father the ring, the older man practically snatched it from him. He clasped the ring to his chest, prayed silently, and went to sleep. In the morning, he was healed. All clinics tests proved negative. Healings of this sort happen all the time. What is most significant about this one is that the son's amazing story was so totally made up. In fact, he had picked up a splinter of ordinary wood from the sidewalk, taken it to a jeweler, and had it set in a golden ring of antique design. He then gave it to his father. You know, of course, it was not the splinter of wood from the sidewalk that healed the father. No, it was his imagination aroused to an intense degree, plus the confident expectancy of perfect healing. Imagination was joined to faith or subjective feeling, and the union of the two brought about a healing through the power of the subconscious mind. This is going back to what I just said, and I promise y'all, I'm reading this along with you all. Stop thinking that your healing has to come by an external force. God is within us. That's all the power we need. It's not going to come through these objects or these people. You have the power is within. It's within your mind and your thinking that it can be so that it becomes so. This also makes me think of, I can't remember what Bible verse it is, where God talks about there should be no other God. Sometimes some of us are making these outside things our gods. For instance, people make food their God, money their God. No, God is God. You know, of course, the Father. No, it was his imagination that healed the Father. No, it was his imagination aroused into an intense degree, plus the confident expectancy of perfect healing. Imagination was joined to faith or subjective feeling, and the union of two brought about a healing through the power of his subconscious mind. The father never learned of the trick that had been played upon him. If he had, he might well have relapse. Instead, his tuberculosis never returned. He remained completely cured and passed away from their causes 15 years later at the age of 89. See, the father was so rooted in faith that he was healed. And it wasn't even the actual cross that the son gave him that healed him. It was just his belief that the cross would, so he was healed. Knowing that faith is like a seed planted in the ground, it grows after its kind. Plant the idea seed in your mind, water and fertilize it with expectancy, and it will manifest. Water and fertilize, that means tend to it with care. Whatever you're desiring, make sure you're watering and feeding that desire with positive thoughts, remembrance, love, and peace. And it's going to come to fruition. Be a mental engineer and use tried and proved techniques in building a grander and greater life. Learn to pray for your loved ones who may be ill. Quiet your mind and your thoughts of healing, vitality, and perfection. Operating through one universal subjective mind will be felt and resurrected in the mind of your loved ones. One universal healing principle. It is well known fact that all the various schools of healing bring about documented cures of the most wonderful character. The most obvious conclusion that strikes your mind is that there must be some underlying organ and process that is common to them all. Indeed, there is. The organ of healing is the subconscious mind, and the process of healing is faith. Think deeply about these fundamental truths. You possess mental functions that have been distinguished by designating one of the conscious mind and the other the subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is constantly amenable to the power of suggestion. That means that it can process a lot, way more than we allow it to do, or way more than what we perceive. Your subconscious mind has complete control of the functions, conditions, and sensation of your body. You surely know that symptoms of almost any disease can be induced in hypnotic subjects by suggestion. For example, a subject in the hypnotic state can develop a high temperature, flushed face, or chills according to the nature of the suggestion given. You can suggest to the person that he is paralyzed and cannot walk, and it will be so. You can hold a cup of cold water under the nose of the hypnotic subject and tell him, "This is full of pepper, smell it." He will sneeze violently and repeatedly. What do you think caused him to sneeze, the water or the suggestion? I'm not even going to say what I'm thinking, but I will say this. Be careful of who and what you listen to and you allow into your subconscious mind. That's all I'm going to say. If someone tells you he is allergic to Timothy grass, you can place a synthetic flower or an empty glass in front of his nose when he is in a hypnotic state and tell him it's Timothy grass. He will develop his usual allergic symptoms. This shows us that the cause of the symptoms is in the subconscious mind. Curing the symptoms also takes place in the subconscious mind. This shows us that the causes of the symptoms is in the subconscious mind. Basically, the cause of whatever symptoms you're showing signs for is emanating in your subconscious mind. But the cure of those very sad symptoms also take place in the subconscious mind. Different schools of medicine such as osteopathy, chiropractic, qigong, acupuncture, and naturopathy all produce remarkable healings. So do the rites and ceremonies of the various religious beliefs throughout the world. It is obvious that all of these healings are brought about through the subconscious mind, the only healer there is. Everything is coming full circle. Like I said, the medicine osteopathy, chiropractic, qigong, acupuncture, and naturopathy, they are facilitators to the subconscious mind. It's not the cure. The subconscious mind is the cure. Notice how the subconscious mind heals a cut on your finger. It knows exactly how to do it. The doctor dresses the wound and says nature heals it. But nature is nothing more than another name for natural law. The law of the subconscious mind. The instinct of self-preservation is the first law of nature, and self-preservation is the foremost function of the subconscious mind. There are so many outside external influences that has so many of us abandoning the self. I can't tell you how many times or how many years that I have unconsciously have not consciously breathed. That's what I'm attempting to say. And when you don't consciously breathe, you're not cognizant of it. So if you never learn how to breathe consciously, you can be breathing uncontrollably. And in breathing uncontrollably, depending on your stress level, this can be a not so good thing. So with this not being not such a good thing, what I'm basically saying, it makes us so unaware of our body. So many of us are living for the pleasures and the desires of things outside of ourself. On top of us being programmed by these outside and external things that we don't know who we are. So when we are sick, or when we're needing to manifest something, we can't, because we don't know that we have the power internally to do so. And you know it has to be so. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten a paper cut or a cut, and I may have just cleaned it and went on. Guess what happened? It healed itself. It healed itself because the body knows this universal law that it is going to go through cycles for it to be healed. Now, if I ruminated on, oh, this cut is not going to heal, then it's not going to heal because I'm telling it's not going to heal. Widely differing theories of healing. Many different theories of healing have been advanced by different religious sects and prayer therapy groups. There are a great number who claim that because their practice produces results, their theory therefore must be right. As we've seen in this chapter, this cannot be correct. As you know, there are many varieties of healing. Franz Anton Mesmer, an Australian physician who practiced in Paris, discovered that by applying magnets to a diseased body, he could cure the disease miraculously. He also performed cures with various other pieces of glass and metal. Later, he abandoned the use of these objects in favor of passing his hands over the patient's body. He claimed that the real source of his cures was what he called animal magnetism. He theorized that some mysterious magnetic substance was transmitted from the healer's hand to the patient's. Mesmer lent his name to the method of treating disease, which came to be called mesmerism. Today we know it as hypnotism. Other physicians jealous of Mesmer's success claimed that all his healings were due to suggestion and nothing else. When pressed, however, they had to admit they did not know how this power of suggestion created such amazing effects. It only created the effects because when you mesmerize and you hypnotize something, you're putting it on the frequency of that thing. So it has no choice but to mimic that same thing. So that's why I'm saying Be conscious of what you are allowing to enter your mind, body, and spirit. The same thing for your children. Because you could be unconsciously and subconsciously programming yourself, your children, and your family for something that's not of their greatest good. All of these groups, psychiatrists, psychologists, and osteopaths, chiropractors, physicians, and religious groups of every variety are using the one universal power resident in the subconscious mind. Each may proclaim the healings are due to their theory, but the truth is far different. The process of all healing is a definite positive mental attitude and an inner attitude, or a way of thinking called faith. Healing is due to a confident expectancy that acts as a powerful suggestion to the subconscious mind, releasing its healing potency. Let me read that again. Healing is due to a confident expectancy that acts as a powerful suggestion to the subconscious mind, releasing its healing potency. So basically, this is saying you got to have confidence that something is going to happen, and it's going to happen for your greater good for it to occur. Or you can be not so confident that it's not going to happen to your greatest good. And guess what's going to happen? It's not going to happen according to your greatest good. It's all about frequency. One person does not heal by a different power than another. It is true that both may have their own theories or methods, but there's only one process of healing, and that is faith. There is only one healing power, namely your subconscious mind. Select whatever theory, belief, and method that calls out to you. You can rest assured if you have faith, you will get results. View of Paracelsus. Philippus Paracelsus, a famous Swiss alchemist and physician who lived from 1493 to 1541, was a great healer in his day. He stated what is now an obvious scientific fact when he said, "Whether the object of your faith be real or false, you will nevertheless obtain the same effects." Whether the object of your faith be real or false, you will nevertheless obtain the same effects. Thus, if I believed in St. Peter's statue as I should have believed in St. Peter himself, I shall obtain the same effects that I should have obtained from St. Peter. This is going back to a few pages ago where the man received the alleged healing from the cross from the alleged monk. It was the frequency of the thought of it having the healing powers through the father's subconscious mind that caused the dad to heal. But what is superstition? Faith, however, produces miracles, and whether it's true or false, faith will always produce the same wonders. The views of Paracelsus were echoed in the 6th century by Pietro Palmanazzi, an Italian philosopher who wrote, "We can easily conceive the marvelous effects which confidence and imagination can produce, particularly when both qualities are reciprocated between the subjects and the person who influences them. The cures attributed to the influence of certain relics are the effect of their imagination and confidence. Quacks and philosophers know that if the bones of any skeleton were put in the place of a saint's bones, the sick would none the less experience beneficial effects if they believed that they were veritable relics. Think what this implies. If you believe in the power of saints' bones or the healing properties of certain waters, or like my Australian relative, the miraculous effects of a fragment of wood, you will get results because of the powerful suggestion given to your subconscious mind. It is the latter that does the healing." Bernheim's experiments. Hippolyte Bernheim was a professor of medicine at Nancy, France. Early in the 20th century, he was one of the first to explain how physicians' suggestion to the patient took effect because of the force of the subconscious mind. Bernheim relates the story of a man whose tongue was paralyzed. Every form of treatment was tried, with no success at all. Then one day, the man's doctor announced that he had learned of a new instrument that was certain to relieve his problem. The doctor then pulled a pocket thermometer in the patient's mouth. The patient imagined this was the instrument that was to save him. In a few moments, he cried out joyfully. He could once more move his tongue freely. Bernheim continues, among our cases, facts of the same sort will be found. A young girl came into my office having suffered from complete loss of speech for nearly 4 weeks. After making sure of the diagnosis, I told my students that loss of speech sometimes yielded instantly to electricity, which might act simply by its suggestive influence. I sent for the induction apparatus. I applied my hand over the larynx and moved a little and said, "Now you can speak loud." In an instant, I made her say "ah," then "b," then "Maria." She continued to speak distinctly. The loss of voice had disappeared. Here, Bernheim is showing the power of faith and expectancy on the part of the patient, which acts as a powerful suggestion to the subconscious mind. Producing a blister by suggestion. Bernheim states that he produced a blister on the back of a patient's neck by applying a postage stamp suggesting to the patient that it was a bee sting. This sort of demonstration has been confirmed by the experiences of many doctors in many parts of the world. These leave no doubt that structural changes in the body can be brought about as a result of oral suggestion to patients. The cause of bloody stigmata. Hemorrhages and bloody stigmata can be induced by means of suggestion. As a demonstration of this, Dr. H. Bernheim put a subject into a hypnotic trance, then gave him the following suggestion. At 4 o'clock this afternoon, after the hypnosis, you will come into my office, sit down in the armchair, and fold your arms across your chest. Your nose will begin to bleed. That afternoon, the young man did exactly as he had been told. After he crossed his arms, several drops of blood came from his left nostril. On another occasion, the same investigator traced the patient's name on both his forearms with the dull point of an instrument while the patient was in a hypnotic trance. Bernheim then said, at 4 o'clock this afternoon, you will go to sleep. Your arms will bleed along the lines I have traced, and your name will appear written on your arms in letters of blood. The patient was carefully observed that afternoon. At 4 o'clock, he fell asleep. On his left arm, the letters stood out in bright relief, and in several places there were drops of blood. Although the letters gradually faded, they were still faintly visible 3 months afterwards. These facts demonstrate at once the correctness of the two fundamental propositions previously stated, namely the constant amenability of the subconscious mind to the power of suggestion and the perfect control that the subconscious mind exercises over the functions, sensations, and conditions of the body. What are you not subconsciously aware of? What are you not subconsciously aware of that's not emanating who and what you need to be your greatest higher self? That's a mouthful, but think about it. I could probably write a whole list here. All of the foregoing phenomena dramatize vividly abnormal conditions induced by suggestion. They are conclusive proof that as a man thinketh in his heart, which is your subconscious mind, so is he. Ideas to remember from chapter 4. Remind yourself frequently that the healing power is in your subconscious mind. Know that faith is like a seed planted in the ground. It grows after its kind. What thoughts are you feeding your mind? And do those thoughts align with your greatest and highest potential? Plant the idea seed in your mind, water and fertilize it with expectancy, and it will become manifest. The idea you have for a book, new invention, or a play is real in your mind. This is why you can believe you have it now. Believe in the reality of your idea, plan, or invention, and as you do, it will become manifest. In praying for another, know that your silent inner knowing of wholeness, beauty, and perfection can change the negative patterns of the other subconscious mind and bring about wonderful results. The miraculous healings you hear about at various shrines are due to imagination and blind faith that act on the subconscious mind. You use the subconscious mind, but you can't, like I said, don't make all these external contributory factors your source of your healing. They can contribute, but they shouldn't be the source. All disease originates in the mind. Nothing appears on the body unless there's a mental pattern corresponding to that. That is so powerful. Read it one more time. All disease originates in the mind. What thoughts do you have about your health that are not aligned with the best, healthiest you? If you want to be healthy, happier, and thinner than where you are currently, what thoughts are you feeding your mind and your body to allow that to be so? Along with what habits are you implementing that will enable that to be so? If you're wishing to lose weight and you have thoughts of you not being able to do that, chances are it's not going to happen. The symptoms of almost any disease can be induced in you by hypnotic suggestion. This shows you the power of your thought. Hypnotic suggestion. All I'm going to say, be careful who and what you listen to. You may not be thinking those thoughts, but what you listen to may be subconsciously conditioning your mind that is enabling you and your body and your spirit to align with something adversely to that. Be mindful who and what you listen to. There is only one process of healing, and that is faith. There's only one healing power, namely your subconscious mind. If you think subconsciously that God is going to heal you and you are healed, it has no choice but to happen. Whether the object of your faith is real or false, you will get results. Like I said, whether those results are good or bad, that's up to you and your interpretation of if they're going to be good or bad. Your subconscious mind responds to the thought in your mind. What are you thinking? Are those thoughts good? Look upon faith as a thought in your mind, and that will suffice. And let me go back to that, because I said, are those thoughts good? And I know as individuals, we each have individual perceptions of what we perceive to be good or bad. But all in all, as people, it is my belief that we should have some idea or some perception of who and what we desire to be. So therefore, in order for you to become that desired person, whatever thoughts you have, make sure they're aligning with that. Because if they're not, you can't become that person if you can't perceive it. I hope that makes sense. So once again, we have been reading The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. I'm Chastity. This is the Healing Work channel, where we specialize in spiritual growth and self-discovery. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back soon, and I wish you all well.